After my boyfriend fell asleep, I noticed his phone lighting up with notification after notification. I tapped the screen and found he posted an answer under an online thread titled, "How far would you go for the person you loved as a teenager, but could never have? I've been in love with my childhood sweetheart for 12 years, but I'm with someone I don't love. My sweetheart had someone she was crazy about. To help her find happiness, I went after the girl her crush liked, my current girlfriend, to get rid of the competition for her. Now she and her crush are about to get married. As for me, she's not the one I'm with, so it doesn't matter who is." That was when I realized I was the girlfriend he didn't love. My hand shook and the phone slipped onto the bed. Jacob Harding didn't wake up, but his body shifted toward me on instinct, and he mumbled my name through his sleep. Cindy, the old me, might have melted at that, might have believed he loved me just as desperately. Now all I felt was how absurd it was. I knew who his childhood sweetheart was. Vivian Chambers. She was with Ferdinand James, now a senior from my college years. I'd met Vivian before. Jacob had mentioned her to me, but all he ever said was that they were close friends. As for Ferdinand, he had confessed his feelings to me once, but I barely knew him, so I turned him down. When I later found out Vivian and Ferdinand were together, I assumed it was coincidence. I even wished them well sincerely. Now I understood it was never coincidence. It was a game Jacob had engineered from the start, and I was just an expendable NPC in it. I took a deep breath and kept scrolling through the post. It was a detailed chronicle of every memory he had, of loving Vivian in secret. I knew I loved her from the time I was 10, but she never once looked at me that way. Of course, I didn't want to see her with someone else, but I couldn't stand watching her hurt even more. So I chose to let her go. When she got rejected and locked herself in her room, crying for 3 days, the hatred I felt was unbearable. I hated that the person she loved wasn't me. I hated that someone as good as her had to suffer that kind of rejection. But the person I hated most was my current girlfriend, for so effortlessly taking away everything she wanted. So I decided to help her. I went after my current girlfriend, and the plan was to break up a year later. Only now did I understand why. His eyes always something I could never read when he looked at me. But he'd been so good to me, so impossibly good, that I never had a single reason to doubt him. Our 1-year anniversary was a week away. I've been happily planning how to celebrate it, how to make the day special. I thought I'd surprise him. I thought it would make him happy. It never occurred to me that all of it was a lie. From the very beginning, a scheme, something closer to revenge. The comment section was full of reactions. Have some shame. How do you even have the nerve to post this? What did your girlfriend ever do to deserve a piece of trash like you? Leave her alone. Others saw it differently. He didn't cheat on her, didn't mistreat her. What's so terrible about that? Am I the only one wondering? If he loved his sweetheart for so many years and never made a move, how come his girlfriend was so easy to win over? Jacob had replied to that comment, "With the person you love, you can only tread carefully. You're terrified of saying the wrong thing. You can't bring yourself to hurt her. But with my girlfriend, it was just a game of calculated affection points. Throw in a few special tactics when needed. And of course, it was easy. If anyone's curious, I can share some of the special methods I used." The comment section predictably begged for details. Jacob replied below, "It's simple. Really figure out what she needs most. Before I made my move, I spent a long time doing research. My girlfriend grew up in a single-parent household. Her family didn't have much money. She was deeply insecure. Plenty of guys on campus were interested in her, but most of them looked down on her because of her background. They couldn't get anywhere near her heart. So I showed up in the place she was most comfortable. Naturally, she let her guard down. I remembered how I'd met Jacob. It was at the tutoring center where I worked part-time. My family didn't have much. My mother raised me on her own, and none of it came easy. Starting college, I refused to be another burden on her. I picked up every part-time job I could find. And that was how I met Jacob, who was supposedly there doing the same thing. Wasn't until we were already together that I found out his family was well off. I asked him why he'd bother picking up shifts at a tutoring center. He just smiled and said, "My parents taught me early on that money doesn't come easy. I wanted to see what it felt like to earn my own." But now in that post he'd written, who would actually want to work part-time if it wasn't to get close to her? And she bought it. So naive. But that alone wasn't enough. If you want to make someone feel safe, you have to show up when they need support the most. My girlfriend didn't come for money, but she was well liked on campus. So I had to create an opportunity. At the time her grades were right on the edge for a graduate school recommendation slot. She was one spot short, and her best friend held the position right above her. I happened to know that her friend had someone else run the fitness test for her back in college, so I reported it just like that. My girlfriend got the slot. Was anonymous, of course. But since my girlfriend was the one who directly benefited, suspicion fell on her immediately. I pretended I didn't know anything about the recommendation situation. In a casual conversation with some mutual friends, I let it slip that my girlfriend hadn't been job hunting lately, and seemed to have new plans. And just like that, everyone was convinced she was the one who done it. But comments were blowing up. Now, dude, don't you realize how disgusting you are? How can you even type this out? Honestly, I don't see the big deal. His girlfriend still benefited. It's just one friend. Who cares? And if the friend hadn't cheated on the fitness test, she wouldn't have gotten reported anyway. Am I the only one who feels bad for the friend? She lost a recommendation slot that should have been hers. All because of someone else's game. Something sharp stabbed through my chest. Disgusting. It was so disgusting. If someone asked me what the most painful stretch of my college years was, it would be those weeks when everyone around me kept saying how lucky I was to land that recommendation slot. That period nearly destroyed every good memory I had of college. My best friend was Rachel Fox. She was my roommate. We went to class together, ate together, complained about the cafeteria food together. For practically all 4 years, we were inseparable. She said I was her best friend. I never doubted that. I felt the same. Her grades had always been better than mine. I never once thought about competing with her for that slot. When the recommendation fell into my lap, it felt at first like an unexpected gift. It became a reason for everyone around me to look at me with contempt. Rachel's feelings toward me shifted, too. She trusted me at first. Then the rumors wore her down, seeding doubt where there had been none. And eventually we became strangers. Even the friends I'd once gotten along with started quietly pulling away after they heard. I ran into Rachel on campus more times than I could count, trying to explain, but she just walked right past me every time, as if I didn't exist. It wasn't until graduation that I learned she'd failed her grad school entrance exams and gone straight into the workforce. The guilt nearly broke me. I came close to dropping out myself. That was when Jacob stepped in, staying by my side through it all. When almost no one around me believed I was innocent, he was the only one who did. He told me I hadn't done anything wrong. Looking back now, of course he believed me. He was the one who done it. Admit it. At the time, I was genuinely moved. Jacob and I grew much closer during that period. I confided in him constantly, and he comforted me again and again. But now I realized that wasn't what it was at all. Jacob rode impatiently in the thread. Honestly, shouldn't she be thanking me for getting that recommendation slot? Walking around looking half dead all the time? I don't even know who that performance was for. If I hadn't helped her, what would she even be doing right now? Unemployed and expecting me to support her? Someone in the comments asked, what does this have to do with winning her over? She didn't actually fall for you because of it, did she? Jacob replied immediately, you're exactly right. She was so wrapped up in that whole mess back then, it never even crossed her mind that I was being nice to her. Because I wanted to date her. And here's the thing. The whole reason I went after her in the first place was to make my childhood sweetheart's crush stop being interested in her. But even after her reputation tanked that badly, the guy still couldn't let her go. So I came up with a new plan. You want to know where that guy lost? He was too careful, too cautious to make a real move. Same way I am with my childhood sweetheart, actually. But that's normal, I guess. When a guy truly likes someone, that's how he acts. He was worried about my girlfriend's mental state, so he kept having people deliver gifts to her. Good thing I intercepted every single one. I never knew Ferdinand had done any of that. Then Jacob shifted gears, but that wasn't enough. My goal wasn't just to get with her. I needed him to give up on her completely. Around that time, my girlfriend couldn't take the passive bullying from her roommate and classmates anymore, so she wanted to move off campus. She picked up a new tutoring gig to cover the rent. Kid she was tutoring came from an insanely rich family, and they treated her well. Before every session, they'd send a driver to campus to pick her up. I didn't do much. I just happened to walk by with my roommate one time. When she was getting picked up, made sure people saw her climbing into a luxury car. She'd suddenly moved out of the dorms, and now she was getting into expensive cars. Given that she was on financial aid, it wasn't hard for people to jump to conclusions. At night, I went back and posted about it anonymously on the campus forum. The rumor spread fast. Within hours, people were saying she had a sugar daddy. She had plenty of guys chasing her at school. So I posted that she liked stringing people along, combined with everything before. She was already completely isolated. Public opinion turned on her overnight. By the time I read this far, I was gripping my phone so hard my knuckles ached, forcing down the nausea clawing up my throat. Near graduation, I thought I would finally escape those looks. Finally start over. Instead, all I got was more abuse. During that time, no matter where I went, the people around me watched me with undisguised malice. Memories I buried on purpose came flooding back all at once. Walking across campus, people would whisper about me, pointing when they thought I wasn't looking. In the dining hall, anyone who recognized me would deliberately move to a different table. When it was time to form groups for class projects, everyone else paired up seamlessly, leaving me standing alone. No one wanted me. Jacob was the only one willing to stay by my side. At first, I hadn't just sat there and taken it. I tried posting my own side of the story, but every single time my posts were deleted almost instant. Only now did I realize Jacob himself was the forum administrator, controlling the narrative on campus. Must have been effortless for him. The boys who used to like me turned on me overnight. Fueled by the mob, they escalated their attacks on the forum, until it became outright character assassination. Some said I deliberately LED guys on. Others claimed I was stringing along multiple men at once. Even spread lies that anyone could sleep with me for the right price. The only reason I'd gotten my graduate school recommendation slot was because some rich older man was keeping me. It wasn't until a few days later, when a post titled, "Stop Slandering My Girlfriend" shot to the top of the forum, that the storm finally died down. Jacob had written it. He claimed the luxury car his apartment was one he'd rented, and I was simply his girlfriend. Nothing sordid about it to me. He said he'd only done it because he wanted to help me, and because he truly had feelings for me. He asked me to give him a chance. And under that textbook suspension bridge effect, I actually fell for him. I thought Jacob had saved me. Now I knew he was the one who destroyed me in the first place. Bullying I endured, the sincerity I gave him to Jacob, all of it had been nothing more than a game. Outside the window, rain had started at some point, a thin, persistent drizzle tapping against the glass. I stared at the message my advisor had sent me about the overseas exchange program. I unlocked my phone and scrolled back to the message from a few days ago. "Cynthia, the department has one spot for a year-long exchange program in Avondale. The deadline is coming up fast. Think it over and get back to me as soon as you can. This program carries real weight and could make a significant difference for your future." What I texted back was, "Thank you, Professor. Let me discuss it with my family." I never discussed it with anyone. All I could think was, would Jacob agree? Would he think I was gone too long? A whole year without seeing each other? Would it ruin us? But now I changed my mind. I deleted the polite draft I'd written to decline and typed a new message. "Professor, I want to go. Are there still spots available?" The reply from Professor Evans came 3 minutes later. "Yes, Cynthia. Come to my office tomorrow at 9 a.m. We'll expedite the paperwork." I locked my phone. The screen went black, reflecting my face in the dim room. I looked the same, tired eyes, messy hair, but the girl who had fallen asleep a few hours ago was dead. Beside me, Jacob shifted again, throwing a heavy arm over my waist. His breath was warm against my neck. A few hours ago, this contact would have made me feel safe, anchored. Now, it felt like a snake coiling around my throat. It took every ounce of willpower I possessed not to violently shove him off. Instead, I carefully, agonizingly slow, slid out from under his arm. I picked up his phone. He hadn't changed his passcode in the year we'd been together. 0812, Vivian's birthday. How had I never realized? I used to tease him about what the numbers meant, and he'd just kiss my forehead and say, "The day I decided to stop taking my parents' money." Another lie. My fingers flew across the screen. I took screenshots of the entire thread, capturing every single comment, every boastful reply he made, making sure his username and the timestamps were clearly visible. I didn't stop there. I airdropped the photos to my phone, then emailed them to a dummy account I had just created. I even copied the URL and pasted it into the Wayback Machine to permanently archive the page. He could delete the post tomorrow, but the ghost of his confession would live forever. When I slipped back into bed, the rain was coming down harder. I lay awake, staring at the ceiling, piecing together the last 3 years of my life. Every humiliation, every tear, every time I had sobbed into Jacob's chest, begging to know why everyone hated me, while he stroked my hair and told me, "It's okay, Siwen. You have me. You'll always have me." He was the arsonist playing the firefighter, and I had worshipped him for saving me from his own flames. The next morning, the smell of bacon and brewing coffee drifted into the bedroom. Jacob was in the kitchen, humming. I walked out, leaning against the doorframe. He looked up, his eyes softening into that practiced, impossibly gentle gaze. "Morning, sleepyhead," he smiled, walking over to kiss my forehead. I forced my muscles to relax. I forced my lips to curve into a sleepy smile. "Morning," I murmured. The smell of his cologne, a sharp cedar scent I used to buy for him, suddenly made my stomach churn. "I was thinking," Jacob said, flipping a pancake with casual grace. "For our anniversary next week, we should go to that French place downtown. The one you've been looking at. Then maybe a weekend trip to the coast." A game of calculated affection points, he had written. throw in a few special tactics. That sounds perfect, I said, keeping my voice light. I'll leave the planning to you. You always know exactly what I need. A flicker of pride crossed his face. Always. At 9 a.m., I was in Professor Evans' office. By 10 a.m., my name was officially submitted for the Avondale Exchange program. The departure date was in 3 weeks. By 11 a.m., I was sitting in a dingy coffee shop 2 towns over, waiting for Rachel. It had taken me an hour of digital stalking to find out where she worked. She was an administrative assistant at a mid-level logistics firm, a far cry from the prestigious grad school track she had been on. When she walked into the cafe, she looked exhausted. The bright, ambitious spark that used to define my best friend was completely gone. When she saw me sitting at the corner booth, she froze. Her jaw tightened, and she turned to leave. Rachel, wait, I called out, standing up. Please. Just 5 minutes. If you still hate me after you look at what I have to show you, I will never speak to you again. She hesitated, her hand on the door handle. Slowly, she walked over and slid into the booth opposite me, keeping her coat on. You have 3 minutes, Cynthia. I don't know what kind of victory lap you're doing, but I have to get back to work. I didn't say a word. I just unlocked my phone, opened the photo album, and slid it across the table. Rachel looked down. She read the first screenshot. Her brow furrowed. She swiped. She read the next. And the next. The silence between us stretched, heavy and suffocating. I watched her eyes dart back and forth across the screen, reflecting the harsh fluorescent lights of the cafe. I watched the realization hit her, saw the color drain from her face, saw her hands begin to tremble. When she reached the part where Jacob admitted to reporting her for the fitness test and framing me for it, a choked, ugly sound escaped her throat. Oh my God, she whispered. She dropped the phone on the table as if it burned her. Cynthia, he did this? He did all of it, I said, my voice eerily calm. He ruined your future to isolate me. He ruined my reputation to make me dependent on him. All of it so he could clear the path for Vivian. Rachel covered her mouth, tears spilling over her eyelashes. I hated you, she sobbed, the resentment of 3 years finally breaking. I hated you so much. I thought you stabbed me in the back for that slot. I know, I said, reaching across the table to take her hand. She didn't pull away. She gripped my fingers so hard it hurt. I hated myself, Rachel. But we aren't the villains in this story. We were just NPCs in his. What are we going to do? Rachel looked up, her eyes wet but suddenly burning with a resurrected fire. The old Rachel was waking up. His anniversary is next week, I said. And Vivian and Ferdinand's engagement party is the night before. I need your help, Rachel. I'm going to burn his life to the ground, but I can't do it alone. Contacting Ferdinand was the riskiest part of the plan. I didn't know the man. I only knew he had once liked me, and now he was marrying the girl Jacob obsessed over. I found his LinkedIn and sent him a direct message. Ferdinand, this is Cynthia. We went to college together. I know you're getting married to Vivian soon. I have information about Jacob Harding that you and Vivian need to see before you walk down the aisle. It concerns the gifts you sent me junior year. Let's meet. He replied within 20 minutes. We met at a high-end bar near his law firm. Ferdinand looked exactly as I remembered, tall, sharp-featured, composed. But when he sat down, there was a visible tension in his shoulders. Cynthia, he said, nodding. It's been a long time. You mentioned gifts? Junior year, I said, skipping the pleasantries. When the rumors about me having a sugar daddy were tearing my life apart, you tried to send me things. Care packages. Notes. Right? Ferdinand looked uncomfortable. I did. I knew you were going through a hard time. But you kept returning them to the courier, saying you wanted nothing to do with me. I never received them, Ferdinand. I never even knew you sent them. Ferdinand frowned. What do you mean? The courier said a guy at your dorm. He stopped. His eyes widened. I placed a printed stack of papers on the table. The screenshots. Jacob intercepted them. I said softly. Jacob Harding, your fiancé's childhood best friend. Read it. I sat in silence, sipping my water as Ferdinand James, a ruthless corporate lawyer, read the psychiatric horror story of how his fiancé's best friend had engineered the last 3 years of their lives. When he reached the part where Jacob admitted his undying, obsessive love for Vivian, Ferdinand's face turned into a mask of pure, glacial fury. He's a groomsman in my wedding, Ferdinand said, his voice dropping to a dangerous whisper. He's been coming to our house, having dinner with us, helping Vivian pick out floral arrangements. He doesn't view you as a friend, I said. He views you as a placeholder. He isolated me to force you to give up on me, so you would settle for Vivian. He thinks he owns her happiness. Ferdinand neatly stacked the papers, aligning the edges with terrifying precision. Does Vivian know? No, I said. But I think it's time she found out what kind of man her best friend really is. Ferdinand looked at me, his eyes cold and calculating. The rehearsal dinner is this Friday. Jacob is giving a toast. You're invited as his plus one. I know, I replied. Good, Ferdinand said, sliding the papers into his briefcase. Leave the audiovisual setup to me. Friday night. The banquet hall at the Ritz-Carlton was dripping in crystal and white roses. Wealth radiated from every corner of the room. Jacob stood beside me, looking devastatingly handsome in a tailored tuxedo. He had his hand resting on the small of my back, playing the role of the devoted, protective boyfriend to absolute perfection. You look beautiful tonight, he whispered in my ear, kissing my temple. Thank you, I smiled, tracing the lapel of his jacket. You look pretty good yourself. Excited for your speech. Just a few words for the happy couple, he chuckled humbly. Across the room, Vivian looked radiant in a silk evening gown, laughing with her bridesmaids. She caught Jacob's eye and waved brightly. Jacob smiled back, but I was close enough to see the slight tightening of his jaw, the flash of dark, possessive longing in his eyes before he masked it. He really is a psychopath, I thought, taking a sip of champagne. At 8:30 p.m., the clinking of glasses signaled the start of the speeches. Ferdinand took the microphone, standing at the head table with Vivian. The room quieted down. Thank you all for being here, Ferdinand began, his voice echoing through the hall. Tonight is about truth. It's about the people who have shaped our journey, the friends who have been with us through thick and thin. He gestured toward Jacob. My groomsman, Jacob Harding, is supposed to give a speech tonight. Jacob has been Vivian's rock since they were 10 years old. He has been intricately involved in our relationship. In fact, without Jacob, Vivian and I might not even be here. The crowd awed. Jacob smiled modestly, looking down at his shoes. Vivian beamed at him. So, Ferdinand continued, his tone suddenly turning sharp. Instead of letting Jacob give a speech, I thought I would share some of Jacob's own words. Words he wrote very recently about his deep, enduring love for Vivian. Jacob's head snapped up. His smile faltered. Behind Ferdinand, a massive projector screen dropped down. Click. The screen lit up. It was a massive, high-definition screenshot of the Reddit post. The title blared across the room in bold black letters. How far would you go for the person you loved as a teenager but could never have? A murmur rippled through the crowd. Vivian looked at the screen, confused. Ferdinand, what is this? Read it, Viv, Ferdinand said softly. Click. The slide changed, zooming in on Jacob's username and the opening paragraph. To help her find happiness, I went after the girl her crush liked, my current girlfriend, to get rid of the competition for her. The blood drained from Jacob's face. He let go of my waist as if I had caught fire. He took a step forward. Ferdinand, turn that off. It's a joke, it's a fake post. Is it? Ferdinand asked, holding up his phone. Because our cybersecurity team traced the IP address of this account directly to your apartment, Jacob. And to the university's admin server, where you had administrative privileges. Click. Next slide. I hated that someone as good as her had to suffer that kind of rejection. But the person I hated most was my current girlfriend for so effortlessly taking away everything she wanted. So I decided to help her. Vivian gasped, stepping back from the screen. She looked at Jacob, horror dawning in her eyes. Jacob, what is he talking about? Jacob was panicking now. The suave, in-control puppet master was crumbling. He looked at me, his eyes wild. Cynthia, tell them it's a lie. Someone hacked me. I slowly set my champagne glass down on a passing waiter's tray. The entire room was dead silent, watching us. Tell them, I asked, my voice carrying clearly across the silent hall. Tell them how you framed my best friend to isolate me. Tell them how you posted rumors about me being a prostitute so that the whole campus would turn on me, just so I would be forced into your arms. Click. Next slide. The part about the fitness test and the sugar daddy rumors. Gasps echoed from the college alumni scattered around the room. You're insane, Jacob shouted, his face turning a blotchy red. You're making this up because you're insecure. Jacob. It was a new voice. The double doors at the back of the hall opened. Rachel walked in. She was wearing a sharp, professional suit, holding a thick manila folder. Jacob froze. Rachel walked straight down the center aisle, her heels clicking against the marble floor. She stopped right in front of him. I submitted a formal appeal to the University Ethics Board this morning, Rachel said, her voice shaking slightly, but her chin held high. Along with all the digital evidence of your forum manipulation. The dean is launching a full investigation into your abuse of administrative privileges. They're also reviewing every grade and recommendation slot you tampered with. She threw the folder at his chest. The papers scattered across the floor. You ruined my life for a game, Rachel spat. Have fun explaining this to your trust fund. Jacob looked around frantically. The elite crowd was staring at him with undisguised disgust. People were whispering, pointing, the exact same way they had pointed at me on campus 3 years ago. He turned to Vivian. His ultimate prize. His reason for everything. Viv, he pleaded, taking a step toward her. Vivian, listen to me. I did it for you. You were so sad when Ferdinand liked Cynthia. You cried for days. I couldn't stand seeing you hurt. I cleared the way so you could have the man you wanted. Everything I did because I love you. Vivian looked at him as if he were a monster covered in blood. You're sick, she whispered, her voice trembling with revulsion. You destroyed an innocent girl's life. You manipulated my fiancé. You manipulated me. You don't love me, Jacob. You're just a psychopath. No, you don't understand. Jacob reached for her arm. Ferdinand stepped between them, shoving Jacob back so hard he stumbled and fell to the floor. Get out, Ferdinand said, his voice echoing with finality. Before I have security drag you out. Jacob looked up from the floor. His perfectly styled hair was a mess. His mask was completely shattered. He looked at Ferdinand, at Vivian, and finally at me. I looked down at him. I didn't feel angry anymore. I didn't feel sad. I just felt an overwhelming, beautiful sense of pity. Happy early anniversary, Jacob, I said softly. I turned around and walked out of the banquet hall, leaving him on the floor. Rachel linked her arm through mine as we walked out into the cool night air. For the first time in 3 years, I could breathe. The fallout was swift and brutal. The university investigation took less than a week. Faced with irrefutable digital evidence and Ferdinand's legal threats on behalf of Vivian and myself, the school expelled Jacob, rescinding his degree. His wealthy family, desperate to avoid a massive defamation lawsuit from Ferdinand's powerhouse law firm, settled quietly out of court with Rachel. They paid her enough to wipe out her student debt and fund her graduate studies wherever she wanted to go. The university quietly reinstated her recommendation credentials. As for Jacob, his parents cut him off to save their own social standing. The golden boy, who had played God with our lives, was left with no degree, no trust fund, and a reputation so toxic that not a single firm in the city would hire him. He tried to contact me. For a week straight, my phone blew up with blocked numbers, voicemails oscillating between weeping apologies and terrifying, vitriolic rage. I listened to none of them. I changed my number. 2 days before my flight to Avondale, I went back to the apartment one last time to pick up the rest of my things. Jacob wasn't there. The landlord had informed me he was being evicted for failing to pay the rent without his parents' money. The apartment was a wreck. Trash everywhere, broken glasses. I packed my 2 suitcases efficiently, feeling nothing but a mild distaste. As I zipped up my final bag, I found a small velvet box on the nightstand. The anniversary gift he had bought for me. Out of morbid curiosity, I opened it. It was a diamond pendant. Inside the lid of the box, a small card read, "To my Cynthia. Thank you for needing me." I let out a short, hollow laugh. I tossed the box into the garbage can, right on top of a pile of moldy coffee grounds. The airport was bustling, filled with the hum of announcements and the rolling of suitcases. I handed my passport to the gate agent. "Heading to Avondale?" the agent asked, smiling as she stamped my boarding pass. "Yes," I smiled back, adjusting my backpack. "For a year, maybe longer." "Well, have a wonderful flight. It's a beautiful place for a fresh start." "I know it will be," I said. I walked down the jet bridge, the heavy weight of the last 3 years finally shedding from my shoulders like dead skin. I thought about Rachel, who was currently touring campuses for her master's degree. I thought about Vivian and Ferdinand, who had postponed their wedding to go to couples counseling and heal from the manipulation they'd endured. And I thought about Jacob, rotting in the prison of his own making, desperately trying to manipulate a world that had finally stopped listening to him. I took my seat by the window. Outside, the sun was breaking through the clouds, casting a golden light over the tarmac. I put my phone on airplane mode. The engine roared to life. I closed my eyes, and for the first time since I was 20 years old, I wasn't afraid of the future. I was the author of it.